"Oh, sorry, I accidentally left your gaming PC in the rain overnight," my brother said, after I refused to put his name on our parents' lake house. Dad added, "Mistakes happen." I did not yell. That night, I updated the insurance file and removed his access to the family safe, but at 7:42 a.m., he woke up to a notice taped inside his front window. The tower was lying on its side on the back deck, and the rain had been falling since midnight. I stood in the sliding glass doorway of my father's house at 7:15 on a Sunday morning in September, barefoot, holding a coffee mug that I forgot to drink from, and I looked at $6,000 worth of components soaking in a quarter-inch of standing water on pressure-treated wood. The tempered glass side panel had cracked against the deck railing. The custom water cooling loop had separated at the top fitting, and coolant had mixed with the rainwater and pooled inside the case in a pale blue puddle that covered the motherboard. The 3 Noctua fans were still. The cables were dark with moisture. The Erg-B strip I had soldered myself was dead. That machine took me 14 months to build. One component at a time, paycheck by paycheck, researched and ordered and installed in my apartment on a folding table with an antistatic mat and a headlamp. The AMD Ryzen 9 processor I saved for 3 months. The NVIDIA 4080 GPU I drove 4 hours round trip to pick up from a seller in Grand Rapids because shipping would have voided the third-party warranty. The total cost, receipted and documented the way I document everything at work, was $8,411. The tower weighed 63 pounds. It had been on a table in my father's basement, where I set it up for weekend visits. Someone carried it up 14 steps, through the kitchen, through the living room, and out the sliding glass door onto the back deck. Then they left the door open. All night. That is not an accident. That is a decision with a staircase. My name is Marlo Calder. I am 31 years old, and I am an IT systems administrator for the Livingston County School District in Michigan. I manage networks, security credentials, hardware inventory, and backup systems for 11 schools and 2,200 devices. Building a gaming PC was my project outside of work. My thing. My creative outlet after 10-hour days of rebooting servers and resetting teachers' passwords. Every component was chosen, researched, and tested by my hands. Brody was sitting at the kitchen table eating cereal when I walked back inside. My brother, 34 years old. Freelance web designer, which meant he built 2 or 3 small websites a year for people who found him through Craigslist and spent the rest of his time on the couch at his apartment or on the couch at Dad's house. He looked at me over the rim of his bowl. "Oh, sorry," he said. "I accidentally left your gaming PC in the rain overnight." I was moving stuff around in the basement and I set it outside to make room. I forgot to bring it back in. He said it the way someone says they forgot to close a window. Flat, unbothered, a cereal spoon in his hand, and milk on his chin. My father was at the counter, pouring coffee. Gordon Calder, 63, retired UPS driver. 28 years on the same route, loading and unloading in every kind of weather, and now he spent his days watching cable news and visiting my mother in the care facility on Tuesdays and Fridays. He heard what Brody said. He looked at me, then at the deck, then back at his coffee. "Mistakes happen," he said. I did not yell. I set my mug on the counter. I walked to the basement, came back upstairs with my phone, and went outside. I photographed the PC from 6 angles. I photographed the cracked glass panel. I photographed the water line inside the case. I photographed the separated cooling loop, the soaked motherboard, the dead GPU, the pooled coolant. I photographed the 14 steps from the basement to the deck. I opened the Notes app on my phone and typed the time, the date, and the weather conditions. Temperature. Precipitation start time from the weather service, approximate hours of exposure. Then I went to my father's office, opened the filing cabinet where I keep the family's insurance documents, pulled the homeowner's policy rider that covers scheduled personal property, and updated the file with a printed damage report and the component receipts I had saved in a folder since the first purchase 14 months ago. Every receipt, every serial number, every tracking confirmation. My father's house has a safe in the hallway closet, a sentry safe with a digital keypad. It holds the lakehouse deed, my mother's jewelry, the car titles, and about $12,000 in cash my father keeps because he has never fully trusted banks since a branch in Howell closed without warning in 2009 and held his deposit for 11 days. I set up the digital lock 2 years ago when Dad started having trouble remembering combinations after Mom's stroke. I programmed both codes, a primary and a backup. That evening, before I left, I opened the Safe app on my phone, reset both codes, and removed Brody's fingerprint profile from the access list. I did not tell Brody. I did not tell Dad. I drove home in the dark, parked in my apartment lot, and sat in my car for 4 minutes looking at the photographs of the machine I had built with my hands. Now dead on a deck in the rain. The screen glow from the photos lit up the inside of the car. The blue coolant in the case looked like a bruise. If you have ever watched someone destroy something you built and call it an accident, hit subscribe to Family Secret Tales. The lake house is where this story starts, even though the PC is what broke it open. My parents bought a 2-bedroom cabin on Whitmore Lake in 2003, the year I turned 8 and Brody turned 11. It was not expensive. $72,000 financed with a 15-year mortgage my father paid off in 2018. White clapboard, green shutters, a dock that my father rebuilt in 2012, and a screened porch where my mother used to read paperbacks in the summer evenings with a glass of iced tea and a citronella candle that never quite kept the mosquitoes away but smelled like summer to everyone in the family. The deed is in Gordon Calder's name only. My mother's name was never added because the mortgage was approved on Dad's income alone and they never updated it after payoff. The property taxes are $3,200 a year. The insurance is $1,800. Maintenance runs another $2,000 to $3,000 depending on the season. Since my mother's stroke 3 years ago, I have been paying all of it. Dad could not manage the paperwork from the nursing facility visits, the medical bills, the insurance co-pays, and the property on top of it, so I took it over. In 3 years, I have put roughly $28,000 into that house. Property taxes, insurance premiums, dock repair after a winter storm ripped 2 posts out of the lake bed, a new water heater after the old one rusted through at the base and leaked into the crawl space, storm windows on the lakeside wall, a full pest treatment after raccoons got into the attic and tore out a section of insulation, every check signed by me, every invoice filed in the same cabinet where I keep the insurance rider. Brody has contributed nothing, not $1. Not one afternoon of labor. He uses the lake house when it is convenient, drives up for a Saturday, drinks the beer in the fridge, leaves dishes in the sink, and drives home with the front door unlocked and the space heater still running. He has never asked what the taxes cost. He has never asked what the insurance covers. He has never cleaned the gutters or winterized the pipes or driven to the hardware store in Brighton for a replacement flapper valve when the toilet ran all night. 2 weeks before the PC incident, Brody called me on a Wednesday evening. He wanted his name on the deed. I talked to Dad, and he said it is supposed to go to both of us eventually, Brody said. So let us just put my name on it now. It makes it simpler. The deed is in Dad's name, I said, and I have been paying the taxes and insurance for 3 years. You have not put $1 into that property. That is not the point. It is a family property. I have as much right to it as you do. When you start paying half the taxes and half the insurance, we can talk about the deed. You always do this. You hold money over my head like you are the only one who matters in this family. Dad built that dock with his own hands. Mom picked out the curtains. I learned to swim off that dock. And you think because you write a check once a quarter, you own the place? I think the person who pays $3,200 a year in taxes and $1,800 in insurance has earned a say in whose name goes on the paper. He hung up. 4 days later, my PC was on the deck. After the PC incident, I expected an apology. Not from Brody. I had given up on Brody's apologies years ago, sometime around the third borrowed tool he never returned, and the second holiday he skipped to go to a football game with a friend whose name he could not remember 2 months later. But I expected something from Dad, a phone call, a text that said more than 2 words, something that acknowledged that his daughter's $8,000 project was sitting in a puddle of rainwater on his deck because his son carried it up 14 stairs in the middle of the night. Nothing. Gordon called me the following Tuesday to ask if I could come fix the cable box. He did not mention the PC. He did not mention the deck. He asked me to bring milk. The Tuesday after that, I visited Mom at the facility in Howell. Pearl's room is on the second floor, east wing, with a window that faces a parking lot and a strip of grass with 2 birch trees. She was sitting in her chair by the window when I arrived. She recognized me. She said my name. That is not something I take for granted anymore, because some weeks she says my name and some weeks she calls me the girl. That Tuesday she said Marlo and reached for my hand, and I sat on the edge of the bed and held her fingers and told her about the lakehouse. Not about Brody, not about the PC. I told her the dock was holding up, and the water heater was new, and the sunflower curtains were still in the front window. The book, she said. She has 1-word days and 3-word days. That was a 1-word day. The guest book is on the shelf, I said, right where you put it. She nodded. She squeezed my hand once and let go. I stayed for 40 minutes and then drove home in the dark, and the whole way I kept thinking about how my mother's 1 word was about the guest book, and how my brother had never once visited her since May. I almost pulled into the parking lot of the care facility again. I was at the light on Grand River, my left signal on, and I wanted to go back inside and sit with her and not leave. But the visiting hours were ending, and a nurse would have knocked on the door, and I would have been the daughter who could not let go of a 40-minute Tuesday visit. I drove home. Not once since May. 5 months without a visit. I checked with the front desk nurse on my way out the following week. She pulled the sign-in sheet. Gordon Calder signed in every Tuesday and Friday, 52 weeks running. Marlo Calder signed in every other Tuesday. Brody Calder's last signature was May 11th, the week before Memorial Day weekend. 19 weeks without a visit. The nurse did not comment. She did not need to. The sheet said everything. The week after that, I was at Dad's house replacing the batteries in his smoke detectors, because that is also something I do, and Brody called while I was on the kitchen step stool. Gordon put it on speaker. "Hey Dad, I am going to use the lake house next weekend. Wanted to let you know." "Sure," Gordon said. "Marlo is here. She might be going up too." "No," Brody said. "I need it to myself. I have got a buddy coming up and we are going to do some fishing, and I do not need Marlo there reorganizing the pantry or whatever she does." I stood on the step stool, holding a 9-volt battery, and listened to my brother tell our father that I was not welcome at a house I had been paying for. Gordon looked at me. He looked at the phone. He said, "All right, Brody, have a good time." He did not push back. He never pushed back. That was the pattern. Brody asks, Gordon agrees, and I stand on a step stool with a battery in my hand, watching my father choose the path of least resistance for the 10,000th time. The following weekend, I went back to Dad's house to pack up the destroyed PC and take it home. Brody was there. He was sitting on the basement couch watching a college football game on the television I had connected to the Wi-Fi 6 months ago. He did not look up when I came downstairs. He did not offer to help me carry the dead tower to my car. He said one thing as I passed him on the stairs, the components wrapped in garbage bags and my arms aching from the weight. "You should have put it somewhere waterproof." I carried 63 pounds of dead hardware up 14 steps for the second time in 2 weeks. The first time, my brother carried it up to destroy it. The second time, I carried it up to take it home. That same weekend, Brody asked Gordon for $2,000. He said his car needed brake work and a new alternator. Gordon looked at me when Brody asked, the way he always looks at me when money comes up, like I am the family accountant who decides things. I said nothing. Gordon wrote Brody a check from the kitchen counter. $2,000. Brody folded it into his back pocket and left without finishing his coffee. He did not mention the brakes or the alternator again. The car sounded fine every time I heard it pull into the driveway. 3 weeks after that, Brody texted the family group chat and said he had used the lakehouse for the weekend and the toilet was running again. He did not offer to fix it. He did not say he had looked at the flapper valve or checked the fill tube. He texted a photo of the toilet and typed, "Somebody should take care of this." Somebody, not him. Somebody meaning me, because I was the one who always took care of it. I drove to the lake house the following Saturday to fix the toilet. It took 12 minutes. A $4 flapper valve from the hardware store in Brighton. While I was there, I noticed the front door was unlocked. The space heater in the living room was still on, and there were 2 empty beer bottles on the kitchen counter and a pizza box on the couch. The guest book was on the shelf. I opened it. No new entries since Pearl's last one. Brody never wrote in the guest book. In 26 years, he had never once picked up the pen. I cleaned the kitchen. I turned off the space heater. I locked the front door. I checked the water heater, ran the taps, flushed the toilet twice, and made sure the windows were latched. Then I drove an hour and 14 minutes home to my apartment, where the insurance claim paperwork for my dead PC sat on my dining table next to a bowl of cold pasta. I almost canceled the insurance claim. Standing in the kitchen, sorting the paperwork into an envelope, I thought about letting it go, about not fighting, about being the Calder who absorbs and moves on, the way Gordon absorbs and moves on, the way Pearl absorbed and moved on for 20 years before the stroke made the decision for her. I held the envelope over the recycling bin for 4 seconds. Then I sealed it and drove to the post office. Some patterns you inherit, some you break. The envelope was my way of choosing. The claim was processed 10 days later. Documented loss. Approved for $6,200 after depreciation. I used the first check to order a new Ryzen 9 processor. The old CPU from the destroyed machine had survived. The socket retained enough of a seal against the water to protect the die. I tested it at Rhonda's apartment on a spare motherboard and it posted clean. That chip was the only piece of the old machine that would live inside the new one. I kept it in an anesthetic bag in my desk drawer while I saved for the remaining components. 1 piece at a time. Again, meanwhile, I kept paying the lake house taxes. I kept paying the insurance. I kept driving to Brighton for flapper valves and smoke detector batteries and replacement bulbs for the dock light. Brody kept using the lake house on weekends and leaving it unlocked and messy. Dad kept saying nothing. And I kept waiting for a reason to stop being the one who holds everything together. One Wednesday evening in mid-October, Gordon called to ask about the lake house insurance renewal. The premium notice had arrived. $1,800, due November 1st. "I can write the check," Gordon said. "You have been paying it long enough. Can you afford it, Dad? With Mom's facility costs?" A long pause. "Not comfortably. Then I will pay it, like I always do. Marlo, you should not have to carry all of this." "No," I said, "I should not. But I do." He did not say anything after that. Neither did I. We stayed on the phone for another 10 seconds of silence, and then he said goodnight, and I wrote the check, and life continued in the pattern it had followed for 3 years. The reason to break that pattern found me 6 days later. On a Saturday afternoon in late October, The sky was overcast, the maples along Grand River had turned, and the leaves were coming down in slow spirals that stuck to the windshield of every car in Dad's driveway. I was on my knees behind an entertainment center, rebooting a router for a man who had raised me and could not raise his voice at his own son. With my hand on an Ethernet cable and my brother's voice coming through a cracked garage door. Rhonda is 33, my closest friend, and she works on my IT team at the school district. She helped me build the gaming PC. She held the case while I mounted the radiator. She drove me to Grand Rapids for the GPU. When I told her what Brody did, she did not say she was sorry. She said, "You built that machine one piece at a time for 14 months. He destroyed it in one night because you told him no. That is not an accident. That is a message. So what is yours going to be?" I did not have an answer yet. I would, soon, 5 weeks after the PC incident. On a Saturday in late October, I drove to Dad's house to fix his Wi-Fi router. The firmware needed updating, the DN settings had shifted from an auto update, and he had been getting buffering on his TV for a week. This is what I do for my father. I am the IT department for a 63-year-old man who thinks the Google is a single website. I was on my knees behind the entertainment center, rebooting the router when I heard Brody's voice from the garage. The interior door was cracked open. He was on the phone with someone. Laughing, she was crying over a computer. She had it coming. You tell someone no, and they think there are no consequences? A pause. Brody laughed again. And Dad will not do anything about the lake house either. He never does anything. Nah, nobody checks. I have been renting it out since last February. The listing has like 40-something reviews now. I just tell Dad the place needs repairs, so Marlo does not go up there on certain weekends. She is too busy fixing routers and playing video games to notice. My hand was on the Ethernet cable. The router lights blinked green, amber, green. My breathing stopped. 3 seconds. 4, 5. I did not move. I did not stand up. I listened until his voice faded into the garage, until I heard a car door open and close, and then I plugged the cable back in and walked to the kitchen like nothing had happened. If you want to see what was on that notice at 7:42 a.m., drop a like. This is Family Secret Tales. I drove home that evening and did what I do at work when a system has been breached, I documented. I searched the Whitmore Lake property address on Airbnb. The listing appeared on the second page. Charming lakeside cabin, Whitmore Lake, MI, 2BR/1BA. Private dock. Pet friendly. The photos were my parents' furniture. My mother's sunflower curtains, the kitchen table where I did homework every summer. The dock I had paid to repair with my own money 8 months ago. Listed under a host profile linked to Brody's old Gmail address. 42 reviews. 5-star average. 18 months of bookings. Nightly rates between $180 and $240 depending on the season. Cross-referencing the review dates and visible calendar against the weekends Brody had told Dad the house was being worked on or having the pipes checked. Every single block date was a booking. Using publicly available review dates and listing rates, the estimated total rental income came to approximately $34,000 over 18 months. None of it reported on a tax return. No Schedule E filed. No short-term rental permit on file with Livingston County. No commercial insurance rider on the residential policy I was paying for. He had been renting my mother's lake house to strangers for a year and a half, without telling anyone. I did not confront him. Not yet. I let the listing stay active. I let 3 more weeks of bookings run while I built the evidence package the way I build a system audit, complete, time-stamped, backed up in 3 locations. I visited the lake house on a Tuesday when no guests were booked. Rhonda drove. The front door was unlocked, the way Brody always left it. Inside, the cabin was clean in the way a vacation rental is clean, surface level. The hardwood in the living room had scuff marks from luggage wheels. The back bedroom window had a crack running diagonally across the lower pane, sealed with clear packing tape instead of replaced. The dock railing I had fixed 8 months ago was loose again, 2 bolts missing, splintered where someone had leaned hard or tied a boat to the wrong post. 4 laminated cards sat on the kitchen counter: Wi-Fi password, check-in instructions, local restaurant recommendations, and a car code for Brody's Venmo. The guest book was gone. My mother's guest book. 26 years of entries. My green crayon heron. My mother's paragraphs, gone from the shelf by the front door where it had sat since 1998. In its place was a laminated card that read, "Welcome to Whitmore Lake Cabin. Please leave the key under the mat." I almost called Brody. The rage was instant, pure, and targeted, and my thumb was on his name before I caught myself. Rhonda saw it. She took the phone out of my hand, gently, the way you take a match from someone standing near curtains. "Document first," she said. "Call later." She was right. She was always right about sequencing. I stood in the doorway of my mother's lake house, looking at a laminated checking card where 26 years of family history used to sit, and I took a photograph, then another, then 12 more. Upstairs, the attic access is through a pull-down ladder in the hallway ceiling. In the attic, 6 boxes of Brody's personal belongings: old clothes, a broken gaming console, winter gear, a box of documents. He had been using the attic as free storage. In the document box, I found an unsigned apartment lease application for a 2-bedroom unit in Ann Arbor. Under savings, Brody had written $34,000. Under additional income source, he had written rental property manager, Calder Lakehouse. He was planning to list my parents' lake house as his income source and his managed property on a lease application. A property he does not own. A property whose deed is in my father's name. A property whose taxes and insurance and dock and water heater and storm windows and raccoon remediation are paid by me. I photographed every page. I photographed the boxes, the scuffed floors, the cracked window, the loose railing, the empty shelf, the laminated card. I found the guest book in the back of one of Brody's boxes, wrapped in a plastic grocery bag, spine bent. I took it. Over the next 10 days, I built the evidence package. Hargrove helped. Hargrove is a property attorney in Brighton, 52, whose office network I set up 3 years ago. He still calls me when his printer jams. The demand package included a demand letter for $34,000 in rental income from a property Brody had no ownership interest in and whose taxes and insurance I had been paying for 3 years. Copies of the Airbnb listing with 42 reviews. Estimated income calculation. Photographs of the property damage caused by guests, the county code for short-term rental permits, which Brody had never obtained, a reference to the residential insurance policy that could be voided by undisclosed commercial use, the PC damage report and receipts, $8,411 filed as a separate property damage claim, and a notice that I would be withdrawing as co-signer on Brody's car lease. A $485 monthly payment at the next renewal in 6 weeks. I also filed a short-term rental violation with Livingston County zoning. The fine for operating without a permit is $2,500. On November 6th, at 7:42 a.m., a process server from Hargrove's office taped the demand package inside the glass panel of Brody's storm door at his apartment in Ypsilanti. Visible from the sidewalk, Brody's name on the envelope facing outward. The server photographed the posting and filed proof of service. Brody called Dad at 8:16. Dad called me at 8:21. I was already at Dad's kitchen table with a folder, a laptop, and 2 cups of coffee. Brody arrived at 9:05 with the demand package crumpled in his fist and Celeste 2 steps behind him. Celeste is 28, a dental assistant, and she has been with Brody for 2 years. She looked confused. She did not know why they were at Gordon's house at 9 on a Wednesday morning. Brody threw the envelope on the table. What is this? I opened my folder and set the first page between us. The Airbnb listing. His host profile. His Gmail address at the top. 42 reviews. 5-star average. The blood left Brody's face in a wave that started at his hairline and moved down like a screen dimming. I was going to tell you, he said. His voice dropped. The anger left his body before he finished the sentence. I was going to tell you and Dad. I was saving the money. I was going to use it to fix the dock and replace the window. I turned to page 2. The blocked calendar dates matched with weekends he told Dad the house was being repaired. I only rented it when nobody was using it. I checked the family calendar. I was not hurting anyone. Page 3. The property damage photographs. Scuffed hardwood. Cracked window with packing tape. Damaged dock railing. Brody sat down. He was no longer holding the envelope. His hands went flat on the table and stayed there, fingers spread. He watched me turn pages the way someone watches a mechanic pull parts from an engine that is not going to start again. I was going to fix all of that. The dock. The window. I had a plan. Gordon was standing by the counter, coffee mug in both hands. He was reading the reviews on the printed listing page. One of them said, "Great little cabin. The dock was perfect for fishing." Another, "Cozy and clean. The vintage curtains give it character. My mother's sunflower curtains. Pearl Calder picked them in 2004 at a fabric store in Ann Arbor. She thought they were cheerful." "You rented the house?" Gordon said. His coffee mug was shaking slightly. "Since when?" "Since last February. My house. Your mother's house. You rented it to people I have never met." Brody looked at Celeste. She was standing in the doorway, arms crossed. She was doing the math faster than anyone in the room. "How much?" Celeste said. "It was not that much." $34,000, I said, over 18 months. Based on his listing rates and the booking calendar. Celeste uncrossed her arms. Her purse strap slipped off her shoulder and she did not catch it. "You told me we could not afford to move in together. You told me your savings were almost gone after the car and the student loans. Where is the $34,000, Brody?" He did not answer. His knee bounced under the table. The salt shaker rattled. That was when the venom came. Brody stood up and pointed at me. His hand was shaking, but his voice was not. "You are 31 years old, and you built a gaming computer like a teenage boy. You sit in Dad's basement every weekend playing video games instead of having a life. You do not have a husband. You do not have children. You have a custom keyboard with lights on it. And you think that entitles you to the lake house? The lake house is for family, for people who will bring grandchildren to the dock, not for a woman who spends Saturday nights in a desk chair talking to strangers on the internet." He said it in front of Gordon. He said it in front of Celeste. He said it with his hand still pointing, and his voice filling the kitchen where my mother's photograph still hung on the wall, and my mother's handwriting was in a blue notebook in my bag. Gordon set his mug on the counter. Coffee sloshed over the rim and spread across the laminate. He did not wipe it up. He looked at Brody with an expression I had never seen on his face in 31 years. I did not raise my voice. "The woman who sits in a desk chair found your Airbnb listing in 11 minutes. 42 reviews. 18 months. You hid a laminated checking card where Mom's guest book used to be. You described Mom's curtains as vintage in a listing and charged strangers $240 a night to sleep under them. You used the dock I paid to repair as a selling point and let guests damage it again. You stored your boxes in the attic rent-free and wrote $34,000 on an apartment application as your savings from managing a rental property. A rental property. I set the unsigned lease application on the table. Dad's name is on that deed. My money is in the taxes. Mom's handwriting is in the guest book you shoved into a grocery bag and buried in a cardboard box. Gordon picked up the lease application. He read it once. He read it again. He set it down. His hands were trembling. "You listed my house as your rental property," Gordon said, "on an apartment application. Dad, I was not trying to take the house. I was just using it. You were putting your name on someone else's property and calling the money yours. That is not using it, Brody. That is something else." I stood and addressed both of them. "Brody, I have filed a short-term rental violation with Livingston County. The fine is $2,500 and you have 30 days to respond. The demand letter from Hargrove asks for $34,000 in rental income earned from a property you do not own and whose taxes and insurance you have never paid. If you do not respond within 30 days, Hargrove will file a civil complaint for unjust enrichment. The property insurance policy is under review because undisclosed commercial use may void the residential coverage that I have been paying $1,800 a year for, and I am withdrawing as co-signer on your car lease. Your renewal is in 6 weeks. You will need to requalify on your own income and credit." Brody's arms dropped to his sides. His breathing went shallow. His skin had gone the color of old newsprint. "This is the last time I carry the cost of something you profit from," I said. "The last tax bill, the last insurance premium, the last dock repair, the last time you walk into a house I fund and treat it like yours. And the next time you want to destroy something I built, remember that I document everything. It is what I do for a living." Brody stood still for 5 seconds. Then he took one step toward me. "Mom would want us to share," he said. His voice was different now. "Smaller, she would hate what you are doing to this family. You are tearing apart everything she built." I reached into my bag and pulled out the guest book, the blue spiral notebook, bent spine. The plastic grocery bag still clinging to the back cover from where Brody had shoved it into a box. I opened it to Mom's last entry, July 2021. Gordon grilled walleye. Brody brought Celeste for the first time. Marlowe fixed the dock light. A good day. I set it on the table in front of him. He looked down. He read the entry. His jaw clenched, and his eyes went glassy, and he closed his mouth and did not speak. "You rented Mom's lakehouse to strangers for 18 months and pocketed $34,000. I paid the taxes. You did not even change the sheets. I picked up my folder, my laptop, and my bag. I walked out the front door. Gordon did not stop me. Brody did not follow. Behind me, Celeste was already reaching for her purse. $34,000, she said to Brody. Her voice was perfectly level. "We have been splitting rent for 11 months. I have been eating peanut butter for lunch because you told me you were broke. $34,000. Celeste left Gordon's house 9 minutes after I did. She drove to her sister's apartment in Ann Arbor. Brody called her 6 times that evening. She did not answer once. She came back to their apartment 2 days later, took a bag of clothes, her toothbrush, her shoes from the rack by the door, and a framed photograph from a trip to Traverse City. She did not leave a note. The demand letter was still on Brody's kitchen table, and it said everything she needed to know about the man she had been sharing rent with while he sat on $34,000 and told her they were broke. Celeste called me the following week. She had never called me before. She said she had found the Airbnb login still open on Brody's laptop, and the actual booking records showed 53 total reservations. Some of the early ones were discounted to generate reviews. The actual total after platform fees was closer to $31,000. She paused for a long time and then said, "I am sorry about your computer. I did not know." Here is what happened after. Livingston County issued the short-term rental violation fine on November 22nd, $2,500. Brody has 30 days to pay or contest it. The deadline is approaching. He has done neither. The county does not send reminders. They send liens. The Airbnb listing was deactivated the evening after the confrontation. The last guest review, dated October 30th, read, "Cute cabin. The dock needs work and one of the windows was cracked. Host was friendly." I screenshotted it before the page came down. 42 reviews. 18 months. All of it now archived on a flash drive in my desk drawer, backed up to the cloud, and printed in Hargrove's filing cabinet. That is 3 locations. The way I back up anything that matters. I sent written notice to the leasing company withdrawing as co-signer on Brody's $485 monthly car lease. The renewal date is December 15th. On his own credit, with income from 2 or 3 web design jobs a year and a short-term rental operation that no longer exists, he will not qualify for the same terms. The leasing company sent a confirmation letter to both of us. A week later, Brody left a voicemail on my phone that I listened to once and saved. He did not apologize. He did not mention the lake house or the guest book or the $34,000. He said, "You are going to cost me my car. I need that car for work." His voice was flat and tired. He did not say what work. Celeste called me the following week. She had never called me before. She said she had found the Airbnb login still open on Brody's laptop, and the actual booking records showed 53 total reservations. Some of the early ones were discounted to build reviews. The actual take after platform fees was closer to $31,000. She paused for a long time and then said, "I am sorry about your computer. I did not know he did that. I would not have stayed quiet if I had known." She also told me that Brody had used $3,000 of the rental income to buy a new gaming console and a 65-inch television that he told Celeste he got on sale. She found the receipt in a kitchen drawer the day she packed her bag. Gordon and I spoke on the phone 3 days after the confrontation. It was the longest conversation we had had in years. He told me he did not know about the Airbnb. He said he should have questioned Brody's excuses about the house needing constant repairs. He said he was sorry about the PC and that mistakes happen was the wrong thing to say, and that he knew it was wrong when he said it, but he said it anyway because saying the right thing to Brody had always felt like the harder road. "I did not want to lose him," Gordon said. "I already lost your mother to that stroke. I could not stand to lose him too. You did not lose Mom, Dad. She is in Howell. You see her every Tuesday and Friday. You have not missed a week in 3 years. Brody has not been there since May." "I know." I checked the sign-in sheet. He was quiet for a while. I could hear him breathing. I could hear the television in the background, volume low, the way he always left it. Then he said, "I am going to put your name on the deed." He offered. I did not ask. I told him we could do it properly through Hargrove. On paper. With the right filings. The person who pays the taxes and the insurance and the water heater and the dock and the raccoon remediation and the $4 flapper valves should be on the document. He agreed. We left it there. If this story reminded you to check who has access to what you built, share it. This is Family Secret Tales. Mid-December. The lake is gray and still. A thin rim of ice has formed along the shoreline, not thick enough to walk on, just enough to catch the pale afternoon light and hold it. I am sitting on the dock with my legs over the edge, wearing a heavy jacket and my mother's old fleece gloves that I found in the hall closet. The guest book is in my lap, open to the first page. My green crayon entry. A wobbly Marlowe, a stick figure heron with legs that look like chopsticks. Underneath, in my mother's handwriting, Marlowe says she saw a blue heron. I believe her. The hardwood inside the cabin has been resanded. The cracked window is replaced. The dock railing is solid, new bolts, sealed wood. The laminated check-in cards are in the trash. The shelf by the front door holds the guest book again, right where my mother placed it 26 years ago. No strangers' names in it. No 5-star reviews. No CR codes. Just family. Just us. In an apartment in Ypsilanti, Brody has a storm door with adhesive residue on the glass panel where the process server's tape held for 9 hours before he peeled it off. The apartment is quieter now. Celeste's toothbrush is gone from the bathroom cup. Her shoes are gone from the rack. The framed photograph from Traverse City left a clean rectangle on the wall where the paint is lighter. A car lease renewal sits on the kitchen counter beside a county fine notice. He cannot sign the lease alone. He cannot pay the fine. The $34,000 is gone, the way money is always gone when someone who has never earned something tries to hold on to it. I turn to a blank page in the guest book, the first clean page after my mother's last entry. I uncap a pen. I write today's date. December 14th to 2026, I write. Fixed the dock. Replaced the window, brought the book back. Mom's shelf is clean. I close the notebook and carry it inside. I set it on the shelf by the front door, spine facing out, the way my mother always placed it. The cabin is quiet, the dock is solid, the lake is still. No guests tonight, just family.